Okay, thank you, Todd. Appreciate it. I'm going to kind of take the lead on this one, and Ron's going to take the lead on the next one. So, the reason I'm so adamant about doing a horsemanship deal at this, just think of how many cattle are handled every day in the United States and Canada and Mexico, horseback, and how big of an impact the horseback culture has on beef quality assurance, which we're a big part of here at the Stockmanship and Stewardship Tour. So I think it's very, very important. And when I look at a personal standpoint at this deal, I look at my daughter who's in the audience, Mesa, and my wife and my son, and our kids as they're growing up. We grew up in a horseback culture, and so the horse is a big part of their growing up. And as I see them as adults now, their stockmanship is so good because of their horsemanship background. And I know in this day and age where people say, well, four-wheelers are more efficient or side-by-sides, I'm not saying that's not true, but in the big picture of stockmanship, the more you deal with animals, the better you're going to be with animals. And so I think it's a great way for young people or people getting into the industry. There's so much that applies to horsemanship that can kick right over to those cattle. And also, if you're a good horseman, a lot of times you'll be a good manager, good people person. A lot of those same principles apply. So I think it's real important, this horsemanship culture that we talk about. I'm going to talk about, I was just talking to David Nelson from Purina, and for so many years, I did colt starting demonstrations for Purina Mills and Prefert. And so I'd go in, and in 2 hours, I would take a colt that hadn't been ridden before and saddle him and get him rode, and it was all fun, and I really loved it. It was the greatest time of my life, really, as far as a business, because it was changing horses. But most of the people in the audience weren't going to be colt starters. They shouldn't have been. I think colt starting is something that not everybody should do. But so what I try to do, as I kind of learned as I went along, I made my colt starting more of a horsemanship demonstration. And so today, even though this is horsemanship, I'm going to try to tie it into stockmanship, cattle handling. And it's kind of a precursor, or kind of a get ready for what we're going to present the rest of the time. So for me, when we're talking about cattle handling or horsemanship, stockmanship, we're all talking about pressure and applying the right pressure, the right kind of pressure at the right time, at the right angle, and releasing it at the right time, the right amount, and the right angle. Pressure, release, pressure on, pressure off. If we break it down, there's three kinds of pressure that we need to learn about. There's a driving pressure, there's a drawing pressure, and there's a maintaining pressure. Those are real important to remember when if anything else that you're trying to teach people how to work stock. Get them understanding those three differences in pressure: drive, draw, and maintain. So when I'm talking horseback, when I'm on the ground and I have a halter or a bridle on this horse, it's easy for me to draw him. I can step here and draw him with me with my rein. It's easy to maintain his mind with me by just keeping a contact with that rein. If he looks off somewhere, I can bring him back and draw his mind back to me and maintain that contact. And then I can go here and I can drive him across there. That's a driving pressure, driving him away from me. This is my drawing pressure, drawing him back to me. And I'll ask him to stop his, like right here, I can be drawing him, and I'll say, now I want you to stop your left foot last here. So right there. Now let's put that left foot back. Now drive that left foot back. Here's my driving pressure. Drive it back. Now I'll say, let's put that right foot forward. So I'll shift his weight, and I'm going to draw his mind and his foot forward, and I'll bring that right foot forward. So the draw, the drive, and the maintain, you can do it on the ground or when I get on his back. And the thing about horsemanship is I'm going to try to get this horse handy enough to where I can put that same kind of pressure on my cattle, because I'm going to use those three pressures: the drive, the draw, and the maintain when I'm working cattle. So I haven't been on this guy yet, and I like to just kind of get a feel of these guys. But let's say you're at home, and my wife, Tammy, she had to stay home and take care of cattle and dogs and horses. so she didn't get to come. But she had a big event last week, and it was called the Art of the Cowgirl. And there was a lot of horsemanship stuff there. And I've seen this horsemanship revolution come across the country and for the last 10, 15 years, and it's all great, and people are spending lots of money, and they're doing lots of stuff with their horse, and it's really good. But what I see there, what they get taught there, doesn't really fit in our world. And it fits, but it doesn't. So I believe, like groundwork. Everybody says you got to do lots of groundwork. Well, that depends on how handy you are. My uncle, he's like a many-time champion cowboy, his idea of groundwork is getting his saddle, dragging his saddle from the tack house to the horse. That's groundwork. Now, for somebody that can't ride a horse, they better do quite a little bit of groundwork. But when you're going to go out and get a bunch of cattle gathered in the heat, or want to get them before they get up and get unmothered, you don't have time to spend 15, 20 minutes groundworking your horse. So I say, get your horse caught, saddle him, and then go do your chores. I'm going to go check my water over here. Here's my draw. I'm going to draw this horse. When he comes up, I'll give him slack and stop his feet. Now I'm going to take his hindquarters to the right. So I'll step over here, hindquarters go to the right. Now I'm going to bring his front end across to the left, and I'm going to go check on my chute over here. Make sure that my preferred chute's all ready to go. Good, now I'll stop him. Now I'm going to step him back 2 steps, back up 2 steps, step across over here, and let's go get this gate. I'll bring his front end across, and then move his hindquarters across. You see, so if you think about it, you can do a lot of groundwork getting your corral set up to go gather the cattle, rather than saddling your horse or going out and doing all that, tie that stuff up, and then go 15, 20 minutes of groundwork. That seems ridiculous to me, but that's just me. So think about things and you can make them work. So, and I think catching a horse is the ultimate in stockmanship. Because I'll just turn him loose. I don't know how good he is to catch or not. Depends if he's Brad's horse or Toby's horse. But here, so when you go to catch a horse, now see, he's kind of hooked on to me. Now, when I walk up to this horse, if I don't know anything, I might walk up and put the wrong pressure on and drive him away. But if I walk to him, and now I'm going to get his mind, so I'm going to step over here and pick up his left eye. Right about here, he should turn and look at me with his left eye. It's coming. See how there. Now his left eye's got me. A little more, now we're straight. So now if I walk towards him here, I think I can make an approach and not have him move his feet. But if he was looking over at Ron and thinking about going to him and I started walking forward to him, I might have been putting a forward pressure on him and sent him over to Ron. So I got to make sure his feet are still and I'm not creating a driving pressure without even knowing I did it. So now here, I'll step here, draw that mind to me. There, watch his ears. His ears come forward. Now as I approach, my hand is showing, and I'm going to say, nice. See, if I went too fast, now he's starting to leave me. I got to get over here where his mind is, and now I'm going to draw him to me. I'll just draw his mind to me, and now he's catching me. So this is more of a drawing pressure I'm putting on now than a catching pressure. Now he's ready to catch. I'll just go ahead and get him caught, step up, and go. Now one thing before I step on, and I'll square his feet up, but I think there's a fellow by the name of Dr. Robert Miller. And Dr. Miller was the imprinting guy. He kind of brought imprinting to the world. And Dr. Miller and I, he's a veterinarian, good guy. We've argued about imprinting for about the last 25 years. And I have a whole different idea about imprinting a colt than he would. So that debate's still going on. I want to put life in my horse rather than take it away. So when my horse tries to get up when he's a baby, I'm not going to make him lay back down. I'm going to help him up. And if he wants to buck me off when he's 2-year-old, I kind of like that. Because I can ride it, and then I'm going to have a horse that has some life and some try when I'm going out in big country in Livingston, Montana, where the hills are too steep and rocky. And he doesn't quit me halfway up the hill. So I want to keep trying my horse. But Dr. Miller told me something, and he called it a 3-point contact. And the 3-point contact, he was talking about it giving a shot. And he said, if you're going to give your horse a shot, or anything, here's 1 point of contact, here's 2, here's 3. 1, 2, 3. And if you do that, the horse doesn't react to the shot or the poke as quick. Well, I got to thinking about that, and I was saddling so many colts in a big hurry that I had to add that, and that helped me more than anything else in my colt starting. So when I first went up and touched a colt, I'd put my hand there, that's 1. 2, and a lot of times I've had a long halter rope, I'd have that on the ground, I'd step on that, that's 3 points of contact, and then I'd go to rubbing the horse and getting him ready to saddle with my other hand. 1, 2, 3 points of contact. And what that does, it tells the horse it's coming. 1, 2, I'm coming to you, and then when you touch him, it's not just a big old boot. Well, to add that to the cattle deal, my son Ryle and Jake Rose and I, we were breeding a bunch of heifers, and they had Kmart patches on them. And we got them all bred, and I was sitting back, and we were going to take those patches off. And I was sitting back in the bud box, and I was just bringing cattle to them, and the boys were pulling those patches off. And there was the 2 boys, and then the owner of the cattle. And when the owner of the cattle, the boys, they'd reach and grab. They're stuck on pretty good. They reach and grab with a pair of pliers, and those heifers would jump and kick and hit their tail heads on the top of the chute. I noticed when Scott did it, they didn't even jump. So just sitting back there waiting to load cattle, you can kind of see things. Sometimes it's better just to sit and watch than to always be doing. And what I noticed is when Scott, the owner, before he grabbed them with the pliers, he just put his hand on that heifer's hip, let her settle, then pull it off. The boys, being boys, and they were just doing their job, they were just reaching and grabbing them. There's a big old boo on those cattle. So I've really, I think the 3-point contact is such an important thing for cattle handling and horsemanship. Okay, I'll see how, I don't even know what my horse's name is. Last time I went to Texana, where these horses come from, I went and rode, and Brad, he brought one of his clients' horses, so he got paid for riding the horse while I rode his horse. So that's a smart guy right there. Now, you see right there, when I get on, I'm thinking ahead, and I put his head to the right just a little bit. And the reason is, my grandpa taught me to bring their head to the left. So then when they jumped and tried to kick you, it took their hindquarters away. But that actually asked them to leave, but my grandpa cheeked horses around. He was a West Texas guy, and he cheeked horses around. So what I'm doing is I'm actually putting the weight on his right front foot, keeping it weighted, and as I step on, I can keep him still. Well, Mr. Jerry Diaz. Jerry, how are you?
Doing good, sir. How are you?
Good to see you, man.
Good to see you.
Gotcha. That was a great show last night.
Thank you.
Okay, so now I got control of his front feet. So now what I want to do, I haven't moved him yet. Now the first thing, me and my daughter kind of a little discussion about the length of your stirrups. And I feel like for a feedlot rider or a ranch rider or somebody that wants a horse to go, in our ranching situation, you need to be off your horse's hindquarters so he can bring those hind feet up underneath him and get a good long stride. It's easy for him to go. So when I get on, I put my toes under me and I put my legs back just a bit. When the show horse people get on, because of what they do, they sit like this, and they're sitting deep in their saddle. And that causes their horse not to want to go. But we want our horses to go easy. So I'm going to roll and I'm just going to, now I should be able to just roll my Wrangler pockets off, and this horse, I don't have to kick him. That should be just enough for him to move out. See, so you don't have to be kicking and poking on your horse by the way we ride. So if I roll forward, I can just I can just bring him up to a trot here without doing anything with my legs. I'm just, the way I'm riding, it's causing this horse to move out. And so you create, and I'll just quit riding, and he should just stop. Now I just got a little heavy with my Wrangler pockets. So the amount of pressure we create, it takes very little pressure to get this horse going. And that's how we should have our cattle. So when you're putting the driving pressure on, if their mind is in the right spot and it's easy for them to go, now I moved his right front forward, and I like to start now, I'll start asking this horse which foot I want him to leave with and which foot I want him to stop with. So here, when I come back around, I'll say, okay, let's stop that right front foot last. So I'll go, there's his left, right, left, right, left, right. He's got a little far forward there, we'll put it back just a half a step. So I try to ride my horse's front feet. It's real important working cattle in the way we're talking. So if I want this horse to step across and make a move on that baldy there, and being we have flight zones, I got to know which foot to move. So if I don't want to move into those cattle bubble, I got to back up a little as I turn. So here I'm going to move his hindquarters to the right. So my hindquarters are going to kind of come forward and to the right, and now I'm going to step his front end back and across. And you see, I got over here where I can go towards my cattle, but I didn't get into their flight zone. So having your horse where you can step him forward in a turn and go through, stop immediately, and back up straight is probably the main thing that we need for a horse to work stock in a low stress manner. Stop straight and step back immediately. And then stop and wait. And what I want for my horse is I want him to get real calm and relax quickly, and I want him to kind of work his mouth like he just did. That signifies to the cattle that everything is relaxed and good, and they'll get settled and calm. If I got a horse, lots of times when I ride in Appaloosa, I have quite a bit of hard time getting them like this. I don't know why that is. Arabians sometimes are the same way. They got a lot of life and a lot of spirit. And they got their head up and they're wanting to dance. Like if you saw Jerry's dancing horses last night, it would have been hard to get a bunch of cattle to settle, because that's life, that's prance, that's proud. But now here with this horse being like he is, he can get calm and relaxed. And the cattle will do the same thing. So when I'm starting a colt or getting a horse road, I want him to be able to leave quick, stop quick, step back quick, settle quick. Really, really important. That's about all you need, really, to get something done. So on the second or third ride of a colt, you can go out and get a job done. If we're working cattle in a way where you got to have a cutting horse to get her done, you're going to have a pretty finished horse. And so calmness, responsiveness, and lightness is real, real important. And I'll liven up here and ride around now. Now, being able to ride straight is the next thing. And I like the way this horse's ears are forward, going to the NCBA sign. I want to be able to ride straight, stop straight, back up straight. And then I'll just bring his head around, bring his front end across, and go there. And then he stops. Now, when I ask him to leave, we'll leave. Now, I'm not wearing spurs, and I'm sure he's been ridden with spurs, but I don't have my spurs with me. Besides that, my legs are so long, spurs don't do much good anyway. So I've kind of learned how to ride without spurs. But I'm not against spurs. I think they're wonderful, but just don't fit me right now. The other thing that I've learned over the years is turning a horse around. I used to think a cow horse should always have a backing turn. You should now see, as I back this horse through a turn, I'm getting farther and farther away from the preferred chute. Now that's a backing turn. He's pivoting on his outside hind foot. I'm moving away from the animal's flight zone. But now that I've listened to Ron and Temple Grandin and Dr. Tom Knopfsinger, sometimes you got to move out of the flight zone, but sometimes you need to move into the flight zone. And so now I'm going to have a forward turn. When I turn my horse, he's going to be pivoting on his inside hind foot, and now we're going to get closer to the preferred chute because he's going forward. See, this is a forward turn. I'll back up. Now I'm going to get forward. I can go right into my flight zone and cause these cattle to move generally because I'm turning on the inside hind foot. So the way I turn my horses around nowadays, I'm trying to teach them to turn around both ways. Backing, most of the time it's a backing turn, but sometimes it's a forward turn. With cattle handling, the way that Ron is going to talk about in the next session and we follow up, most of the time, the only time you'd ever have to get out of a trot, as Ron and I find out earlier, is when you're going back and need to get to the bathroom. That's funny. It's a little humor this morning. Might be a little early for that, but it's a little humor. But you should never have to lope your horse. A walk and a trot should be just enough for whatever we're going to do in cattle handling. Now, it's real interesting. I went out, when I was at Texana last time, I went out to one of their ranches, and my grandfather grew up in West Texas, and he came to Montana. And when I was a kid, I had a pony, and I'd go with my grandpa, and he could trot and stand up, hold on to his horn. He could trot for 16 miles straight and never sit down. He trotted standing up. In Montana, we long trot our horses and we post. But I do both. But when I went over here in the brush country of Texas here, they loped their horses everywhere. They loped. And it was a real different thing for me. So different regions of the country have different styles that they do with their horses, but the trot is a real good gait for covering country, and the walk is a real good gait for working cattle. So now, if I'm going to go into these cattle, I'm going to see how close I can get to these cattle. So here's how you get close to cattle. The flatter your angle when you come to cattle. Now I'm going to back my horse through the turn. You see how the black baldy, I was too close and she had to turn back and go away. The red calf, he could take it. Now I'm going to walk straight. Watch this little baldy. Now here, I'm going to roll my horse's hindquarters, roll them, and draw back, and that should cause that calf to look back at me. I got to back up, I got to step out here, I got to pick up his left eye. Watch, he'll turn and look at me right about here, he'll turn and look at me. So that's my drawing pressure. And my horse kind of wanted to go to him, but I had to kind of pull him off, and now I was able to draw that calf's mind to me. Now I'm going to step forward and draw his mind again. I'm asking him to come out to the inside and look at me. As he turns, he's going to turn towards me, not away from me if I can help it. So I'm going to position myself here and get him there. He's going to make it. See, he's going to turn and go away from me. Now that allowed me to keep his eye on me the whole time. Now I'm going to ride up and I'm going to ask him to look at me again, and I'll just stop my horse there. So by having my horse precise, I can draw his mind, or I can say, now I'm going to send him around to Ron here. I'm going to draw him to the outside. I'm going to push his eye to the outside. And now I can just send him right over and have Ron pick him up. I mean, I could send him to Ron if I wanted to. So by having precise horsemanship and a horse that is precise and you can stop, back up, move the hindquarters in the front where you want them to go, it makes cattle handling so much easier. And that's what it's all about. It's not about, and it's, the thing that's real important is I want to have this kind of horsemanship and be able to have my horse work that way. But I also want to be able to take my rope down and go get that old bag that the neighbors ruined or the cattle I bought, and if I need to, I'm going to cowboy up and get her. And if we don't have that in our back pocket, we're going to lose cattle. And I don't care, all the purists can say what they want, but there are times when you got to be a cowboy, or you're going to need a cowboy. And I'm not against that. That's a part of our industry. Now, the way to do it, the handier you are, the better you are. And the better you are at it. So it's good to practice these things. So, you know, I've seen, I went to Florida several years ago with Purina. And we were at Archie Rogers' place, if any of you know Archie Rogers. And we did all of Florida, all the ranches of Florida, they had a big horse sale and they could bring 2 horses. And I was judging, and they had a big, kind of a big show before the sale. And the best cowboys in Florida, and there's some awful good cowboys in Florida, awful good. They came and they were showing their horses, and they had to change leads. And guys that loaded cattle and shipped a lot of cattle and branded a lot of cattle did things, they couldn't change leads. They didn't even know what that was. And there was 2 kids that were 4-H kids that had horses there. They beat them because they knew how to change leads because of their 4-H program. The next year I went back, and those cowboys were embarrassed, and they were such better horsemen because of the competition. So I'm all for slow and easy and good, but you also got to be able to step it up and do things right. And that's where, when I see these ranch horse competitions, and I watched those ladies last week at the Art of the Cowgirl, man, their horsemanship was outstanding. They were a little faster than I wanted to be, but boy, was their horsemanship good. They were really, really good. Now I'm gonna talk about one more thing, and then are you ready to say something? Nope. Okay, I thought maybe you're going to be the strong, silent one this morning. So what I have here a horse that's pretty cowy. He's pretty cowy. Like, he's going to go to this cow when it's time. He knows he wants to draw to these cows. He don't want to let them buy them. I was walked down the elevator with Stan Weaver, who was past president of the AQHA, and I really like nice bred horses. I never rode many of them, but I like them. But some of the horses you get on are going to be real cowy. They're going to be awful cowy. And that means they want to eat a cow. They don't want to let a cow get by them. And then some horses, they won't even see a cow. And sometimes that might be better. Sometimes. Because if you get them real handy, then you're the one in control. But if you got a horse that's real cowy, you've got to learn how to control that cow. And he's got to shut it off and get set down and relax. Or you're going to have cattle that are always stirred up and scared about your horse. And I think that's really, really important for what we're talking about here today. So, well, Ron, let's put these cattle through this middle small gate here. And we'll just get around here and do a little something. And we'll see how precise we can be now. So for me, what I can do, instead of going around and joining Ron, I can ride right to these cattle. He's going to bring them right by me. We're going to head them right towards that gate. So our horsemanship is going to be real precise. I'm having a hard time getting my horse to ride straight where I want him to go because he wants to cow these cows. Now right here, I got to just step back and send these cattle to Ron's. We'll roll them across, and as soon as they come up, now I got to speed my side up just a little bit to get them to go straight. See, I'm trying to point these cattle right to that hole, so I can just point my horse. Now Ron's I got to step back, and Ron's going to go a little forward. Now I got to come forward just a little bit, and we're just going to keep a straight line here. We're going to see if we can get these guys to find that hole. But our horsemanship is the important thing here. We're not going to slap our legs and make a lot of noise. I'm going to try to get that red calf to see that hole. So the less we do back here, the more those cattle are going to be trying to find the hole. They can only think of one thing at a time. The baldy has seen it. Now these other cattle are going to send him through it. We'll just keep kind of pushing these. This black calf's going to come up. He's going to watch how they're going to work their way through that gate. That's a small gate. If we push too much from the back, we're going to jam some hips, and that won't be too good for BQA. So there, we got our first one started. Now one's going to bump him through. Now I'm just going to step up and just ask that black calf to hit that other calf. Now I'm going to step, just side pass my horse across, and I can be in a position to kind of control this flow. Ron's just going to keep them, feeding them to the gate. I'll step back to draw these other ones across. See, that gave that white calf enough room. Now I can just step forward, send her through. Didn't make her, I'll just send the black calf through. If I can, I'll just point his eye towards it. That's a good move. That's why we want a cutting horse. Now, we didn't keep our flow following, so we'll just have to start that flow again. Now, all we got to do is turn these cattle around. And now she sees the gate. Now, all we want to do is keep sending cattle to her. Now, this white one's going to push her through. The black one did. We just got to have these cattle pushing. If we start jamming them too much, they're going to start banging their hips on the gate. And then they'll be looking for somebody else to do these demonstrations next year. So there, that's a little threshold to cross over. There you go. Good. You see just that little touch with the white calf on her butt, send her through. Now Ron will send this black one. He's going to follow. I've got to step forward and bring this black one. The white one. Good. We'll just keep, all we're putting their mind to the other one. Now, perfect. See, that's the way to put cattle through a gate real soft with no pressure from the back. And if you, thanks. If you can only do that with a horse that you got to whip and spur, or if you're trying to ride your kid's horse and it takes 3 seconds to get him to step forward, you're going to be late with your pressure. And Jerry, good to see you. I'll come talk. The problem is, like, so much of the horsemanship I see is great for other things, but I've got to, when it's time to step forward, I got to step forward. What happens is, if the pressure is on at the right time, at the right spot, at the right angle, if it takes me 3 kicks to get my horse going, I think about it, I see it, I say I got to move forward, I think about it, that's taken a millisecond, then I got to kick my horse. By the time I get my horse to go forward, I might be late with the pressure, and I might be sending them away from the gate rather than through the gate. So having a horse that can step a foot, and that's why I work on their feet. I want to be able, I say, let's move your left foot, not your right foot, your left foot. So I'll shift his weight over on his right foot, and I'll say, come on, move that, not the right. You got to get your, good, now he can make his left. Left, you got to go left, not right, left. There he is, now it's coming, now it's coming. It's going to make it, come on. Yeah, good, that took a long time, but you see, all from the first time I take a hold of a colt, I start working on being able to move one foot or the other. And that makes it where I can shift their weight and easily move a foot forward. And some horses, if they're right-footed, I'll ask them to leave with their right foot more. You got to figure out which-handed your horse is. So those are some of the simple things that I think are so important for horsemanship, for stockmanship. And I go to different ranches, and I see they have me go there for stockmanship. But their mindset is still on old style horsemanship. And I think we got to change that. Horsemanship for stockmanship is different than horsemanship for a cutting or a cow horse competition. It's different. You can ride your horse for stockmanship and make him better for competition, because it's easy to keep a horse in balance when you're doing things slow and right. He gets better. And then when you do speed things up in competition, you've just made it a better horse. But we've got to, I hope you'll all think about the fact that horsemanship for stockmanship, the modern age stockmanship that Ron and I are talking, Dean and Todd are talking about, and Jack. It's different, just as our cattle handling is a little bit different. It's evolved. And what it does, I like horses. I like when I'm driving down the highway somewhere, I don't care if it's in Missouri, Georgia, Hawaii, Texas, or Montana. There's nothing better when you see a set of cowboys or a cowboy out gathering a bunch of cows. I always stop and just watch, because you don't see it very often anymore. Matter of fact, I think you see four-wheelers and side-by-sides more these days doing things than not. And I'm okay with that, but think about it. If you have a horse, I already talked about how much better your children get because of the stockmanship component of horses and learning about animals. But when you saddle a horse and ride it, if you ride it properly, it increases in value every time. Every time you fire up a four-wheeler or side-by-side, they decrease in value. So if we're trying to create value on our property and quality of life, I don't know anything better to do that than having a horse and working your cattle horseback. And boy, there's nothing better to sit up on a hill on a nice horse and look down on your place, or just take a moment and look things over. I don't know there's any better feeling that you can get if you have that kind of a background. Now, that's just kind of a personal thing. But stockmanship and horsemanship, they go hand in hand together, and hopefully. But there, you see, if you have a horse that only you can ride, you're never going to get that raise in value. For years, I thought the ranch horse sales were going to be the deal. It's going to create a lot of value for you folks, but it didn't work, because cowboys don't get horses gentle; they get them tired. And then when the people that buy them that don't get them tired, and they feed them really good Purina feed, too much of it, and then they get on them and they fart them off, then no more ranch horses for those folks. So this horse can go wherever he needs to go, and I think that's a real important part of this thing too. So anyway, Ron and I think we like doing things horseback about as much as with cattle as anything else, and we've been on lots of different horses and lots of different places, and we've never ridden a bad one yet. We've rode some that were better than others, but never a bad one. So anyway, that's our horsemanship thing, and hopefully you'll think about it, and if you're interested in a horse, get you a good one, find somebody to help you, and have fun with it. Appreciate it. Thank you.